The city of Hama has fallen completely under the control of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham rebels, who are backed by the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army. Syrian government forces have officially confirmed their withdrawal, saying they regrouped outside Hama to prevent urban fighting and protect civilian lives. Reuters reports. Hama, which is the main transport route to Latakia and Tartus, where Russian military bases including the Khmeimim airbase are located, is a critical hub for the Assad regime. The fall of Hama poses a direct threat to Russia's presence in the region. If the rebels continue their advance and capture Homs, the Syrian regime could lose access to the Mediterranean and communications with Russian forces on the coast. That would be a catastrophic blow to both Assad and Moscow, analysts say. Analysts say Homs could be the point where the Syrian regime can no longer cope. The loss of the city would threaten not only the military position, but Assad's very ability to hold on to power. Meanwhile, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and Syrian National Army are strengthening their forces using captured equipment and recruiting deserters from the Syrian army. According to the data, the Assad regime has already lost 14.3% of its tanks and 12.1% of its infantry fighting vehicles. In addition, the rebels are freeing political prisoners, increasing anti-regime sentiment. The advance on Hama and the possible threat to Homs increase the pressure on Assad, creating risks for Russia as the regime's main military ally. The loss of Homs could become a catalyst for new conflicts within the regime and beyond. In the coming weeks, the outcome of the battle for Homs will determine the future of the Syrian conflict and Russian influence in the region. Recall, since November the 27th, a coalition of opposition forces in northwest Syria, led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, launched an offensive against the Assad regime and its allied Iranian militias' strongholds in the area. On November the 29th, opposition forces captured Aleppo, Syria's second largest city. On November the 5th, the opposition rebels entered Hama, Syria's fourth largest city, after dictator Bashar al-Assad's Syrian Arab army announced that it was withdrawing from the city to its outskirts. This is the first major opposition offensive since the 2020 Idlib ceasefire between Russia and Turkey, and it marks the most significant shift in the balance of power in Syria's war since Russia's military intervention in the conflict almost a decade ago. The capture of Hama is a significant strategic victory for the rebels, but Damascus remains the biggest prize.
Three U.S. service members were being evaluated for potential traumatic brain injuries following an attack near a base in eastern Syria this week, Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder said Thursday. U.S. Central Command has advised that 3 U.S. service members are being evaluated for possible TBI, Ryder told reporters. Ryder said U.S. Central Command is still evaluating who was behind the attack near mission support site Euphrates, which prompted the U.S. to conduct counterstrikes on Tuesday. At the time, the Pentagon said rockets and mortars had landed in the vicinity of the base. The U.S. has about 900 troops in Syria to conduct missions to counter the Islamic State group. Meanwhile, Syrian insurgents have swept into the central city of Hama after days of intense clashes with government forces. The Syrian army said Thursday it has withdrawn from Hama after insurgents broke through its defenses. It is yet another setback for President Bashar Assad only days after losing control of Syria's largest city, Aleppo. The Syrian army said it redeployed from Hama and took positions outside the city to protect civilians. The stunning week-long offensive appears likely to continue, with the insurgents setting their sights on the central city of Homs, the country's third largest. Homs is the gate to the capital of Damascus. Pentagon officials said the strategy unifies the department's approach to countering these systems that looks across domains, characteristics, and time frames. In Thursday's briefing, Ryder said, unmanned systems, more commonly known as drones, have the potential to pose both an urgent and enduring threat to U.S. personnel, facilities and assets overseas and increasingly in the U.S. homeland. The Defense Department says these threats are changing how wars are fought and emphasizes that by producing a singular strategy for countering unmanned systems, the Secretary and the Department are orienting around a common understanding of the challenge and a shared approach to addressing it.
Just a few things here at the top. We'll get right on Tuesday, I highlighted U.S. self-defense strikes in the vicinity of MSS Euphrates in Syria, when U.S. forces faced an imminent danger due to several threats to include rockets and mortars fired in the direction of U.S. forces in the area. U.S. Central Command has advised that 3 U.S. service members are being evaluated for possible TBI. As you know, those numbers can fluctuate, and I'm not aware of any other injuries at this time. Again, we'll not hesitate to take appropriate action to protect our forces if they are threatened.
At all for any transition meetings or anything here in the Pentagon?
This week, the Secretary signed a classified strategy for countering unmanned systems to unify the Department's approach to countering these systems that looks across domains, characteristics, and timeframes. Unmanned systems, more commonly known as drones, have the potential to pose both an urgent and enduring threat to U.S. personnel, facilities, and assets overseas, and increasingly in the U.S. homeland.
U.S. military bases both abroad and in the States.
Looking at how we'll approach this, one is ensuring that the Department is prepared to conduct counter unmanned system operations, counter UAS operations. 2 is looking at how we respond to incidents that do occur by pulling together subject matter experts and resources. And then 3rd is tracking equipment and counter UAS equipment, UAS, one aspect of drones.
Into Iraq.
Unmanned systems, drones, are going to be something, again, that we will need to take a holistic, comprehensive approach to addressing.
Target on Tuesday.
Yeah. This location has been used in the past by groups like Iranian-backed militias to target U.S. forces at MSS Euphrates. But again, in terms of who is operating those vehicles or who is firing those rockets and mortars, that is something that, as I understand it, CENTCOM is still assessing.
To provide any support for the SDF in that operation?
Look, our forces are in Syria to conduct a counter-ISIS operation, right? The enduring defeat of ISIS. They have partnered with the SDF on those missions. Certainly they communicate with the SDF on a frequent basis, as partners do. But our forces in that region were threatened. We took action to mitigate that threat, and we'll do so again. An A-10 conducted a self-defense strike near MSS Euphrates when some individuals were establishing a rocket rail. The A-10s went in, took it out, period, dot. Self-defense, not in support of any kind of, operations by any other groups that are going on. This is defending our forces. That simple.